Let's head via the phone to San Antonio, Texas, and welcome CJ Vergara to the program. CJ, how are you doing?
Good, sir. Thank you for having me on.
We appreciate your time. I know it's just the start of fight week, and I always ask this. What is fight week like for you? And are they all the same every fight week, or do you try to change it up a little?
That's a great question. And, I try to make variations to it based off of how I'm feeling, based off of where my weight is at, and just kind of what rituals I've been putting in place for the camp. Fortunately for this one, I'm at home. The hotel is maybe 4 miles away from where I live. So I'm from San Antonio, and so I'm able to pick up my son from school, take him to school, take him lunch, spend time with my family, and, sleep in the comfort of my own home. So that's pretty different compared to flying out to Phoenix or New York, for instance.
Is that good and or bad? I mean, it's got to be great to be home and great to do all that, but isn't it also not to have? And I hate to use any of that as a distraction because it's not, but it could be in a way, right?
Right, absolutely. And fortunately for me, this camp, I have taken care of every corner and crevice of myself as far as my diet, my mindset, my preparations are all sharp. So this week is kind of an opportunity for me to take a breath away from having to work out 3 to 4 times a day, spending hours and hours and hours in the gym, right? And so to take that opportunity to fight at home and be able to just kind of have some normalcy about my life before I go right back into the chaos of the fight. It's a breath of fresh air for me. And so it is a distraction, right? But in a good way.
Right. No, it's definitely in a good way, but it still could be, and it's kind of like when I always ask all of the fighters, do you get out? Do you go check around? And I know you're at home, so you may or may not. But I always say, this isn't vacation. This is a work week. You know what I'm saying? It's still about Saturday. But yeah, at least if it is a distraction, it's a good distraction because it's your family and your home and all that.
No, that's correct. And I've actually learned that the hard way a time or two throughout my career is where I go to, for instance, Las Vegas away from COVID and kind of have a little too much freedom to walk around and maybe check out some sort of attraction of sorts, right? And kind of pulls your mind away from the job at hand. So you're right, it is a work week. And I have work on mine.
Exactly. Matt, I know you have a question, but before you get to yours, I'm sure you have. Have you been to, the Crystal Caves or whatever it is that's in San Antonio?
Oh, yeah, the natural caverns, as they call them. They're right outside the city. And it's been about 10 years, honestly, but I have been there. It's pretty incredible.
I was there for a vacation. My wife and I, I'm like, let's go to this. And I'm a little leery. You're walking down into caves and stuff. But that place, in my opinion, is one of the coolest things I've ever been to in the world.
Right? Isn't it, though? And it's just kind of tucked away on the outside of San Antonio. You wouldn't expect that.
So speaking of San Antonio, we live in Tampa Bay. We have fair-weathered fans to be, polite. We don't have a hometown presence. But I saw a week ago you're on the court at the Spurs Arena. Are you a diehard Spurs fan? And how does the community embrace the local teams there? Are you guys all behind the team, or is everybody from somewhere else like Tampa Bay?
No, yeah. So San Antonio's been diehard Spurs fans since I've been here, and I moved here when I was 12 during the Tony Parker, Tim Duncan era, right? So we got spoiled with an incredible team dynasty when I was younger, and then the past few years have been pretty rough as we're trying to build up a new team. But we do have a kind of like a loyalty to the Spurs here in San Antonio, and I'm not like an avid basketball watcher, but I do enjoy the game. And I was welcomed with a great hometown welcoming at the game. And I feel like right now, because of the dullness of not having a great team, having a fighter from San Antonio that is going to come out and perform at the highest level in an exciting fashion that I'm going to is going to give us something more to get behind.
Now, last week, Randy and I went to the NCAA first round basketball. We were on the floor at the Orlando Magic Arena, and
it's called the Amway Center.
The Amway Center. What's it feel like to be courtside, and these guys are little giants, like monsters, running past you, and knowing that you could take them out at any point?
Oh, isn't that funny you put it that way? We actually played the Orlando Magic last week, and that guy, I think his name is Bobo.
Right. Yeah. He played for UCF.
So tall. dude, but like the dimensions of his like femur bone and his radial bone, watching him run as fast as he did was like, I couldn't make sense of it the entire game. I was talking about it. It was incredible to see how athletic those guys are. And also there is a bit of like a safeness for myself. It's like, hey, if something really bad happened here, I could probably defend myself against these guys.
And that's what it's all about. Yeah, for sure. What's the craziest, strangest / funniest thing that's ever happened either to you or involving you in the middle of a fight?
Oh man, when I was making my pro debut, so it's first round, right? And I was fighting, this is in 2011, here in San Antonio, La Villita, right downtown, which is this historic little event center there. I threw the first punch of the fight. It was a big left hook. Bam, I dropped the guy. Go down and start finishing him. He's trying to pull me into his guard. And all of a sudden, the referee separates us, but didn't stop the fight. And I look out, and there's a fight happening in the stands that is trickling towards the cage. And it was, unfortunately, one of my really, really close friends who started the fight because somebody said something a little too personal about me, I guess, and he just wasn't having it. So the fight was paused for 10 minutes. Mind you, I just broke my thumb, and my hand is swelling up like a balloon. And by the time the fight started back up again, I could no longer close my left hand. I won the fight by decision, but yeah, that was a crazy, crazy experience. I was in so much pain the rest of the fight because my adrenaline kind of died off during that little pause.
Exactly, because of the time. Are you still with Pete Spratt?
Yes, sir. I've been with Pete Spratt since 2010.
You know, I wanted to make sure before I asked the question because I've known Pete forever. I've covered the UFC longer than anybody in the country. I go back to UFC 1. So, you know, I know Pete. I know of Pete. But talk about Pete Spratt to the new generation of MMA UFC fans that may not know who he is.
Of course. So Pete is truly the last of that dying breed of early MMA fighters. When you come into the sport and you're a specialist at one thing, but it's hard to find that mixed aspect of everything. So when I started training with Pete, he was, I want to say maybe 35, 36, and he was just like this behemoth of an athlete. And he was like my main training partner, sparring partner when I first started training. And I was always under the assumption he would take it easy on me because I was such a small guy. I was also 19 years old. Pete beat the absolute life out of me for the first 5 years of me being in the gym with him every day. And I'm honestly grateful for it looking back because it kind of gave me this thickness about my skin and lack of fear for any opponent that I get in front of as a base. But I mean, we talk about a guy who has some of the smoothest striking and creative ability to move between Muay Thai and boxing, also has a Kempo background. And so he can kind of transition into this, traditional martial arts type of thing that he does. And I mean, some of his highlight reel KOs are incredible, from like walk-off KOs, kick KOs, ground and pounds. I mean, he's got even a couple submissions under his belt. And people don't realize it, but when you look back on his film, you see that he was one of the deadliest strikers this game has ever known. And he still holds a record for least strikes absorbed in UFC history. Incredible.
I didn't know that. But no, he was definitely one of those guys, you know, old school. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is cool. You know, I can reminisce a little about Pete. I can find out, you know, your thoughts and how the younger generation, you know, knows about, you know, guys like that. And to me, it was just absolutely awesome to see that you are with him. Give me your thoughts on your opponent.
Daniel I really like his fighting style, actually. He's a very risk-taking and crowd-pleasing type of exciting fighter. And what I keep telling people is that if you look at his track record at the UFC, it's very misleading because he is on a 3-fight losing streak. He's been finished in his last 3 fights, twice in the first round. But to me, that's just a testament to how much a fighter is willing to risk in a fight, because it takes risk to get that reward, you know. And he goes out there and he swings for the fences, shoots up his submissions, looking for the finish at every second. So I'm also seeing it as you have a fighter who's coming off of 3 losses, and he must be very urgent to not lose this fight. So I'm expecting the best version of him to come out and bring all of his tools and weapons out. And I'm going to be doing the same thing.
What do you look for? What does your management team and your agent look for, when the phone rings and you're offered a fighter? Is it record? Is it, the tenacity in a fight? What are those things? Or is it really nothing? It's the phone rings and it's yes.
Yeah, that's a great question, too. I always say, when the door knocks, I open it and walk right through, because right now, as a newcomer in the UFC, I'm fairly still green, only 3 fights in. I don't pick and choose, I'm here to fight the best of the best, whether he's a grappler, a striker, a wrestler, or somewhere in between. I'm always going to answer the door.
Final question for you. Can you watch a fight as a fan and not always trying to get something? And the reason I ask it that way, I'm a licensed judge here in the state of Florida, and my thing is I have to look away for like 30 seconds so that I can watch a fight as a fan and not as a judge. Because if I'm watching the whole thing, I'm looking for everything and to say who won, who didn't, in my opinion. But if I look away, I can't judge it, and I can enjoy the fight as a fan. Can you watch as a fan?
Absolutely, because I was a fan first of the sport, and especially when I'm not a fan, for instance, and there's a big pay-per-view on, and I'm with my buddies and we're having some beers and wings. I'll buy into hype. And here's the thing, man. Pete, to this day, Pete shits on me for it. Apologize for that.
He said ships. He saw the USS Perry logo. He said ships.
Exactly what I said. Pete still makes fun of me to this day, because when Floyd and Conor boxed, I was sitting in the gym like, I don't know, Pete, maybe Conor has a puncher's chance. He never did, So I will buy into the hype to this day. I love the sport. I love watching the fight, and I can just enjoy it as a fan, But if it's a teammate fighting or someone I'm close to, that's when I become hypercritical of the situation, and as you are,
Right. What's the thing that you hear? Can you hear when I'll be nice, I'll just call them fans right now, when they yell, sweep the leg, or the Ric Flair woo, or, something that we've heard from day one, which to me is just so funny that they still do that. Can you hear that stuff from the crowds?
Yes and no. There's been a couple times when I've been against the fence, for instance. I think it was in Phoenix, and I was trying to get placed in a round or something like that, and somebody yelled something very profane that I can't repeat on the air from like 5 rows back. And for a split second, I almost laughed in fight, and then I had to like snap back into it. Because I'm fighting on the prelims, and it's loud, but it's not quite main card vibes. You know what I mean? So
No,
I can hear it.
A, I know what you mean, and B, it's one of my biggest complaints and bitches, about our sport. If you're a fan, I want to see the early prelims, honestly, almost as much, if not more sometimes, than the main card. These are fighters. You guys are fighters that are fighting your ass off to get to the main card. They're the fights I want to see. So when there are empty seats there, it kind of bothers me.
I agree with that, because like you said, we are trying to fight our way up to the main card spot. So we're going out there and doing everything under the sun that we know to earn that spot up. We're the hungriest on the card,
With you, agree with you 100%. CJ, what can the fans expect to see when you get in there on Saturday and the door locks?
When that cage closes and the referee asks if we're ready to go, I'm going to go out and put pressure on Daniel and have an answer for every attack that he has, and I will put him away inside 2 rounds.
There you have it. I cannot wait for Saturday. CJ, thank you very much for your time. I know that we have your address. We're going to send you a care package from 8 Man Strong, as well as a case of salsa from Blue Smoke Salsa. You're going to love both of it, and hopefully we can talk to you again very, very soon.
Sounds great, guys. I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to that care package.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Take care. That is another representative of this weekend's fight from San Antonio. And if you ever go, have you been to San Antonio?
Never been. I heard the river is amazing.
The river walk is cool.
No, not the